Hello and welcome to Discovering Grayslake, unveiling the stories and people that make our town so unique. I'm your host, David Wool, and I'm thrilled to bring you this new podcast that explores fascinating stories and experiences of local business owners and community leaders, right here where we call home. Grayslake Rehabilitation Center is a community-based private practice physical therapy provider. Do you know they have 13 clinical providers with various levels of specialties, including orthopedics, sports, neurology, vestibular, geriatrics, pelvic floor, and aquatic? What? Did I just say they have a pool? Well, they do, and it's the largest indoor warm water pool in Lake County, featuring 2 underwater treadmills and swim currents. And recently added clinical treatment specialties, in layman's terms, shockwave. They have both radial and focus units that are the newest tool in regenerative medicine, available to everyone. They pride themselves on the most current and up-to-date specialized care to keep you moving. If you're looking for physical therapy, make sure to see our friends at Grayslake Rehabilitation. Are you looking for a photographer in Grayslake for weddings, headshots, product photography? Well, look no further. Visit Valen Studios, formerly located right on Center Street, and now has moved about 1.5 miles down the road, but they're still here in Grayslake. So if you're looking for a photographer for any of those services, make sure to contact Steve right away or check out his website at valenstudios.com. That's VALEN Studios, plural.com. Enjoy the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Discovering Grayslake. I am at an undisclosed location that you guys will never know, but I would like to give a shout out to my friends at Agora Co-working. We usually record from there, so thanks to Agora. Great co-working space right here in Grayslake on Center Street in Atkinson. I have the pleasure of sitting in this beautiful undisclosed location. Do we have to call it an undisclosed location?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we'll do. Dr. John Bouma.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Dave.
Yes. Okay, so funny, when we were going through everything and I was like making a list of like who I'm going to interview in Grayslake, I'm like, who's who in Grayslake? And for some reason, because we've known each other all our lives, I'm like, damn it, I never...
Well, sometimes you can't even think about those people because, you know...
It's just right underneath your nose.
Right.
So, I know no one in town knows you.
That's right.
Right.
I like to keep it that way.
Right. That's why no one knows where you're at.
That's what makes business so good.
Exactly. All right, so let's start off really quick because obviously John's a chiropractor, and I want to kind of walk through with you really quick before we talk a little nonsense.
Okay.
But I want to talk about your business because you and I have known each other a long time. Let's start with business, and then we'll go there. So when did you actually open? Because this is not your first location here.
So I've been in Grayslake pretty much throughout my whole entire career, but I graduated chiropractic college in 1996 from Palmer out in Davenport, and I worked I was able to leave school early and did an internship for 6 months out in Des Plaines with another person you know as you might know, Wade Whittier.
Yeah.
He's an old St. Gilbert's guy, but he had a practice out in Des Plaines, so
I didn't even know he was a chiropractor.
Yeah. So my mom worked for his dad over at CLC, and then he gave me the opportunity to work over there because he was a Palmer grad too. So we adjusted very similar, and I worked for him for about a year, and I'm just like, I'm not making this commute every day. I'm going back home because I was treating people out of my house, going to their businesses and treating them, and I'm like, I'm going to do this on my own. So 1997 opened up Premier Chiropractic in the old Hooks Lumber Building, which is the gray building at 31 South Seymour across the street from the Village Hall. And John Hook gave me the opportunity to start over there, reduce my rent, and got the bare bones things running. And we were there for 11 years, took off, and it was a slow build. But then 2007 we broke ground here, and we've been here now 15 years. So what was here before? There was, way back in the day when we were kids, there was 3 houses, and they were haunted houses.
Were they really? Like really haunted, or like haunted?
Like I've got patients that lived there, and they're like, it was freaky.
Really?
And then, so there was only 1 house left standing for a long time, so they knocked 2 down, and then they knocked that 1 down. It was sat here as a vacant lot for a long period of time, and then I was getting ready to buy something, and I tried buying that building over there across the street, the DUI guy.
Yes, and if anybody doesn't know where we're at, we're right on Center Street next to the railroad tracks.
Yeah, we're right by my office, Premier Chiropractic. So.
Right.
But tried buying that building, and it didn't work out where we wanted to build, or let me buy. He wouldn't sign the paperwork. He said he was interested. Didn't work out. But then I tried to have him sign the paperwork again, and then the 10 days ran through, and it just wasn't right,
Mm-hmm.
So I remember asking Wayne Wodak, who owns Northern Air, or used to own Northern Air, about, hey, this property that's over here on Center Street, what's wrong with it? And he goes, that thing's got water problems. He goes, because it's in a floodplain. He goes, don't do it. Somebody else would have bought it. That guy that owns apartments over here, Center Street Apartments, he goes, he would have built on it if he could. So it wouldn't leave my brain. This thing just shut down on me. I'm like, whatever. So then I talked to Brian over at, I can't remember his last name now, and he's going to kill me if he listens to this.
That's right. It's only when you can't think about it.
Brian, he was the REI. So they did the surveying and stuff like that. Oh, RE Allen surveying. And so Brian goes, hey, I'm like, have you ever had anybody that tried to build on this? Do you know any information? And he goes, well, I used to work for this civil engineering group out of Libertyville. He goes, we did a whole plan for that thing and got it out of FEMA. He goes, but then it was supposed to be a dentist's office that was going to be here, and the guy skated on him and stiffed this guy for $50,000 for all the work that he did.
Wow.
So we went and talked to this civil engineer in Libertyville and talked with them, and they went ahead, and he was very hesitant to talk with us because he got burned before and saw that I was seriously interested in it, and I'd made the purchase about this land if I was contingent on getting the building permit, and everything transferred over, and the guy's like, I just want something good to happen to this piece of property. It's like bad energy, and now we're turning it into something good. Right. And so he just handed over $50,000 worth of work and said, this is all done. Wow. And so we went and got the building permit, and we started rolling. And so we built it, and that's how we came up on this piece of property here. So it's been great to be out on Main Street versus it's not that's bad being on the other side of the tracks, but with the way that now the train stops so often, it was very difficult, and you kind of get trapped downtown and stuff. But so being here on the main drag, it's been great for business. It's good architecture. And
so you built that building first, and then did you build the garage after that?
Yes, the garage got built in like 2013.
Oh.
Yeah, because I was renting space. I did my own plowing and stuff like that, and I needed a place to stick my old cars and plow truck and all that other crap that my wife didn't want at the house anymore. And then so we built the garage and stored everything in there, and then first we had to get rid of some parking spaces and stuff because the garage is in a floodplain, and so it was a tough little build, and we have to keep square footage down so that way we have permeable surface and stuff like that. But
wow,
yeah. So it's been great.
Wow.
So what's it been now? What is it, 26 years I've been in?
Oh my God, 26 years. And speaking of 26 years.
Is that right?
26 years?
Yeah, it's 26 years.
Wow.
Been in practice, so.
Yeah, so like 96?
Yeah, well, 97, 26 years.
97.
2000.
Yeah, I'm not good at addition.
Me neither.
Yeah, apparently.
2 plus 2
This is
5.
not a math podcast for sure.
Yeah.
Not with me and you. So we were talking. Speaking of numbers, though, I saw you at the Vine last week, and we were talking because it was your wedding anniversary.
Yes.
And how many years?
It's been 25 years married, and then 30 years together.
My gosh.
Yeah. She said, after 5 years.
What is wrong with that woman?
Yeah, I know. I mean, she's a trooper, and we put in some long hours, and we always had this long distance relationship. Like when we were together, she was at a different school and I was at a different school, and then when I got out, I had to start the practice, and I was literally gone 78 hours a week, and so she worked her job. People didn't believe her that she was engaged.
Right, you're like Snuffleupagus.
Yeah, and so then finally we were visiting a friend in Arizona, and so she's like, "Are we ever going to get married?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're going to get married. Let's do it next year." Then we got married in '98, and then a couple years later, then we had our first kid, and business was good, and bought our first house. And
so you were the same house that you were. Is that the house you initially bought?
Oh no,
yeah.
Her parents helped us out with the place over in Wildwood. It was Sterling Court off of Grayslake, And then we bought our first home on our own over in the Manor. And then we lived there for a little bit, and Bruce and Claire, the spouses selling houses.
Yeah.
She came in, so she goes, so she sold us that house, and so then I redid it all. And so then she goes, what are you looking for next? I'm like, I just finished this house.
Right.
Like, we're here.
Let me relax for a little bit.
And so I said, the only way I would move is if we got an acre in Grayslake or unincorporated Grayslake that we could build our own home. And she goes, if that was here, she goes, it would be gone already. And then all of a sudden she called me like 9 months later, and she goes, hey, I found something, you got to work fast. So she found it in Arba Vista over there.
It's beautiful in Arba Vista.
We built a place over there, and so it's been good. That's where awesome. We've been since 2004. So. Wow.
You ever plan on leaving there?
When all the kids are done, they're living somewhere else, we'll probably like to.
How far are you away from that? Wait, how old are the kids now?
The 22, and then the twins are 18.
My God.
So everybody's out of the house, and that's a blessing.
Wow.
Not that the kids are bad, but
right.
It's a great change for a relationship, and it's fun, and my wife still likes me, and so that's a great thing there, and we're having a good time, and we're putting energy into ourselves and our friends and our each other, and so it's fun.
Wow. Okay, so here's a fun question for you. I want to know if you know the answers to these. When you opened up in Grayslake, your first building, who was your first client there? Do you know who it is?
I know exactly who it was. Well, I carried him with me over from Wade Whittier's office into Grayslake, and he's Jason Cramner, back from Wildwood too. He was one of their friends, and so Jason came up here, and he worked with me. And Jason, I'm a big person that I just believe in people, and like the handshake is everything for me, and like take care of you, you take care of me type deal, or So Jason and I did some bartering. Jason's like, you help me out, I'll help you out, and Jason's in the stone business and for tile and stuff.
Right.
So he basically took care of my whole entire house with granite, and when we built it and stuff, so that handshake, and so he stuff chips and whatever, he comes over and he helps me out. So there's never a question about, we've been bartering, him and I, for the last 27 years on stuff. So it's been a great relationship, and I totally trust him.
Is he still a patient too?
Yep.
So I was going to say, who's your longest patient, but your
Jason,
first one is your longest patient.
And then the next person was that I took my very first patient. Well, besides my dad, and there's some other people, but my first patient, actually my own office, name was Michael Magic, and he was from Lake Forest, and I took care of him, and then I think he ended up moving away after probably his kids left or something like that. But
wow, though.
Yeah.
But that's crazy especially when you open a practice. I love that you can hear the train horns in the back. I just drove by the no train horn sign in Grayslake. I'm sure no one's shaking their head at that. We're taking a quick break just to say hello, because everybody knows Nano, and Nano knows real estate. And actually, I believe that's the name of her Instagram page. So if you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or know somebody in the market for a home, contact Nano from Baird & Warner. She's a Grayslake girl helping out Grayslake people. So, like, when you open a practice, it's not it must be weird, like, you open it and then you hope patients are coming.
Yeah. You do a lot of different things. You were in business, and when you first started out, you go do all these home shows and stuff, and sit out there, and you feel people's backs, and you tell your story and blah, blah, blah. But it really boils down to, like, I tell people, I'm like, get your hands on their back, and like, don't even tell me what's wrong with you. I'm going to point to you what's wrong. Right. And they're like, oh, how'd you know that? I'm like, because you got an issue. So, but that's how we started kind of building it. And then I helped out with the Colts. And the Colts was like, because I was an organization that I was part of when I was younger, and so we were their team doc, and we assisted them and stuff like that. And we started then helping those kids when they became in high school and stuff like that. And so then the parents started to get to know me on the sidelines, because I would do that on Sundays after I worked Monday through Saturday.
Oh my God.
And that's how you got to start this whole program. But it was just huge long hours, and so you just start doing that type of stuff, and that's what you got to do out in the community.
Right.
Just start building.
And it's kind of cool that you have a business in your hometown, so people
Yeah.
knew you too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you were like, who's this guy?
Well,
No, it's John Bouma. Well, that could help you or hurt you.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
knew you
I had people that I went to high school with that they're like, I'm not going to see that guy, you know. But as I tell some of them, they're like, I was afraid to come see you, and I'm like, well, I said we all got to grow up at some point, you know.
Right.
And I'm like.
And speaking of that, so in high school and going through, because I know you're a very calm child, and you didn't like to have
I was
fun.
real calm. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. No sarcasm during this.
John and Brian Bouma.
That's right. Go. No one has anything to say that you did crazy. So when I was like, oh, it's Dr. John Bouma, like, at what point during like high school were you like, in high school did you say, oh my God, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a chiropractor? Like, when did you make that decision?
Well, when I was. So here in town, there used to be an old chiropractor by the name of Hub Collins. Is where Terry Miller's at right now. And Terry, I was one of Terry's first patients that he ever seen. Yeah, Hub was this awesome older guy. He was a hunter. He was just an amazing guy. He charged $4 an adjustment, and his office was packed all the time. And so. I'm sorry, I always talk in long sentences.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I apologize to everybody.
My grandmother had a leg that was blown up and swollen, and she went to all the doctors and stuff like that. And so I'm third generation Grayslake, and so my mom's second, my grandfather's first, and my kids are fourth. But so the deal, they had this old farmhouse off of 83. Before you get to Peterson and after the dump. But that was a whole family settlement that was there. But so she had this leg problem and nothing was helping. She was limping, her leg was blown up. And so my grandfather goes, would you please just go see the chiropractor in town? And this is the 40s. And chiropractic was considered quackery. So she goes, fine, I'll go see that quack uptown. So she goes in there, he walks in, and he goes, Marie, I don't know how to tell you this, but the problem's not in your leg. It's nothing else. He goes, it's in your neck. And so, because the form of chiropractic back then was upper cervical, and that was all that they did. It was toggle recoil, and that's all they adjusted was the first couple of bones in their neck. And so he goes, it's not in your leg, it's in your neck. She goes, whatever, quack, do your thing, and I'm out of here. So then she limps into the bank that was up there, the PNC or First Midwest, whatever it was then. And so her girlfriends are in there, and she's like, Marie, what's wrong with your leg? She goes, it's not my leg. It's my neck, the quack chiropractor says. And everybody's like, that's so ridiculous. Look at that leg. So she goes home. She gets out of the car. She starts walking inside, and she realizes she's not limping anymore. And she's like, holy crap, it was my neck. So then she started bringing my mom in when she was a child, and my mom brought us in when we were kids, Brian and I. So my mom's getting it adjusted, and I'm looking up in his office, I'm looking at these charts, and I'm like, I said, Dr. Collins? And he goes, yeah. And I said, I think I want to do what you do when I get older. And I was 7.5. Wow. And he goes, good. And I said, but I got to know one question. Do you got to memorize all these little words on these charts, you know? And so he's like, oh yeah, and a lot more. I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. Like, I'm not a very good student. And I didn't start hitting I didn't even want to read a book report when I was like third grade. Like, I took the words off the back of the book and said, here's my book report. You know, and in 7th grade, I finally started hitting honor roll and stuff. And he goes, you just got to put your mind to it and you can do whatever you want. So, I get chills every time I tell that story.
It's awesome, man.
So anyways, I went away, played football at Grayslake, and then I went and played football at Platteville, Wisconsin.
Oh, you played at Platteville?
Yep. And then I played 2 years. After my freshman year, I was in exercise science, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. And so I'm like, I still want to play football, but I'm going to play it for one more year because I'm not going anywhere after this. So I'm like, okay, what classes? I called Palmer, and I said, what classes do I need to take? I talked to Terry Miller. He was my chiropractor. And he basically says, you're only going to one school if you go somewhere. So I said, all right. So I called Palmer. They told me what prereqs I needed to make. Couldn't look it up on a computer because it's 1991.
Right.
So I call them. They tell me the prereqs I need to take. The next semester I go, I play football. I'm taking the prereqs. At the end of the season, coach calls me in and says, hey, we're done messing with you. you've proved yourself, blah, blah, blah. And I said, that's good, coach. I said, because I'm leaving. And he goes, what? And I'm like,
after when you were going to get your shot. Yeah.
And so my buddy Eric was my roommate in college, and he goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, what's a chiropractor going to do? I'm like, this is what I want to do. So then I came back to CLC because my mom worked there. I went to school there for free. Smart move, no debt. And then went 3 more semesters, and I took the fast track, and I went to chiropractic college in 1993. Graduated in 96 and came out and started, but
wow, Palmer though.
Yeah, so that's how I knew that I wanted to do that. And the cool story is because I loved Hub so much, like the guy was just an amazing guy. I got cool stories about him too from back in the day. He was just a wild man. Like one.
Really?
Yeah. So, dude, I got funny stories. Like
let her rip, baby.
Yeah. So one day, Hub ends up. There's 2 stories I'm going to tell you. One day, this guy walks in there, and this guy ended up becoming a patient of mine. And so this guy walks in and realizes that there's so many. He drives up, sees that the whole waiting room's filled. It's in the summertime, so he opens up the door, or he opens up his truck door, and he's like, I'm never going to get in there, and I don't have time to wait. So he gets out of his truck, and he starts crawling into the front door. And this lady holds this front door open for him. She's like, oh my God, you're in such bad shape. And everybody's like, let him go first. And Hub, he had no receptionist. You just open the door. Next, you walked in, you paid your I think it was by that time. Getting retired was $8. But he would adjust you. And the guy saw hundreds of people every single day.
In Grayslake?
In Grayslake. The guy was phenomenal. Everybody that I talked to, like, they knew him back in the day. So this guy crawled in there, and everybody's like, let him go before me. And so Hub shut the door, and the guy stood up. And he goes, Hub's like, you better make this look good for me. And so they adjusted him, and the guy walked out, and he goes, I can walk! And everybody would tell this story, and I heard about the story. And so I'm like, so this guy became a patient, and he goes, did you ever hear that story from Dr. Collins about the guy that crawled in? And he goes, that was me. And I'm like, no way! And he reverberated the story, like how it really happened. And I just knew that he healed this guy that walked in. But another story about Hub was that, so back in the day during the Depression and crap like that, and that's why chiropractors are called quackeries, because the American Medical Association was kind of getting built. John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie bought into a pharmaceutical company in Germany. And so they said, who's the best school of medicine? And they said, well, it's the German School of Medicine. So they did this survey. They hired this guy, I think it's called the Feltner's report or something like that. It starts with an F. But he did this report of all the schools that were in the United States teaching medicine or health or something like that. And he said, which school does the best job that's most like the German School of Medicine? And they said Johns Hopkins. So then they asked Johns Hopkins to come and be part of the program, say, we want to design it around this German school, and yours is the most identical to that, and so we want you to help us design the AMA in medicine as it is. And so they went ahead and they started doing this, and then this Feltner report or whatever it was, they said, how many schools were there at this time in like 1904? He said there's 181 colleges teaching this. And then he said, how many of them are like this? And so what they did is they started giving millions of dollars to Congress as lobbyists to start changing laws. And then it became illegal for you to practice medicine without a license. Within a short period of like 2 years, and when they started changing this, there was only 86 schools that were teaching medicine in the country. So wow. Anybody that was outside of that teaching alternative or doing different things, chiropractic was one of them, you became a quack. And so through the 20s, 10s, stuff like that, chiropractors were getting thrown in jail for practicing medicine without a license because it was quackery. So states had the laws to do that. So, over at Palmer, they got these letters, and they had all these people were proud to get arrested, and they had medical doctors bailing their chiropractic friends out of jail and stuff. So quackery came up, and all this stuff was happening during that time. And back in '79, then a guy from Park Ridge, Chester Wilkes, basically sued the AMA for propaganda, and he ended up winning because there was a guy like in, with the Watergate, and they called themselves Deep Throat. Well, this guy called himself Sore Throat, and he sent in the AMA from a rural Illinois, an AMA procedural manual, and it had a whole section on how to break chiropractic down. And so they ended up winning the case. And
did you say 79?
Yeah, Chester Wilkes was his name in Park Ridge. So he defeated it, and they would send leaflets out and stuff like that. But that's how. And then the last appeal that they tried to appeal, it was 1996, and the judge finally said, you need to cease and desist trying to turn this over. And affordable health care came around and said that you can't discriminate. Well, those words kept trying to get picked out for discriminating against other practitioners and stuff too at that point in time. So this stuff goes even into the 2000s, where you're always fighting for this type of stuff. So there's government stuff that was happening against these types of things, but 1990s insurance really started picking up and accepting everybody, so we started getting better. But Hub, he was charging $4 or $8, and an IRS agent says, he stops by and he's watching him for a while, and he goes, you're only saying that you're seeing this amount of many people as you are. And he goes, I'm doing my calculations. He goes, you're pretty far off from where you're at. And he goes, back in the day, during this time, the Depression and stuff, chiropractors stayed around because they were a form of healthcare, and in areas where there was farming, they had to bring migrant workers in and stuff like that. They just had these flourishing practices where these people were making $250,000 back in the 20s and 30s and 40s.
Wow.
Because they had 4 doctors in there, but they would take care of all these people. And in order to not charge and get thrown in jail during this time, they put a box, a donation box that was there. It's called the GPC movement. It was God, Patience, and Chiropractic. And so you put in whatever you felt that you could afford and do, but these practices were in what you felt like it was worth. And these people were making huge livings off of just taking care of communities and stuff. So Hub was one of those guys and Dr. Byron that was in Antioch and other guys that were in the area, they were doing the same thing. And he told the IRS agent, if he goes, you don't like what I'm giving you, he goes, I'll put a fucking donation box out there in that waiting room, and you won't get another cent. And so the guy just turned around and he walked out the door and never bothered him again.
That's
I'm talking about the balls of that guy.
He's a badass.
Yeah, total badass. But I had the pleasure of I don't know how many years ago now, it's like 8 to 10 years ago, but this woman shows up, this older woman. She goes, hey, I need to talk to you. And I said, what's that? She came back to my office. She wasn't going to see me. And she goes, my name's B. And I'm like, okay, hey, B, how you doing? She goes, my name's B. Collins. I'm like, oh, hi. And she goes, I'm Hub's wife. And she goes, I've heard about your story. So I get goosebumps right now.
I got goosebumps right now.
She goes, Hub, I'm going to cry. She goes, Hub would be so proud of you. And so she goes, I heard about your story about what you wanted to do and what he said to you. And she goes, he had this on his desk. It was a little pewter statue of a chiropractor adjustment patient. She goes, he would want you to have this. So she gave it to me, and then her family basically was moving her out of her house, and she went into a home and she passed away, but she gave that to me, and I'm like, and then the bad thing was that the person that gave that to Hub, I saw him over at Whitney Street Cafe. And he goes, hey, I heard B stopped by your house and gave you that pewter statue that I gave to him. And I said, yep. And he goes, I want it back. I'm like, no can do. And he goes, that was mine. I said, you gave it to him as a gift, and she gave it to me as a gift, so it's mine, brother.
That's awesome.
That's it. And I was like, oh. But yeah,
how nice
that
is
dude
that?
Was a mentor, and he touched my life big time.
Well, and he got you started too.
Yeah.
And then after, that's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a good story. But
yeah.
Thanks for making me cry, Dave.
No.
I'm a little sentimental, buddy.
Just call me Barbara Walters or whatever.
Oh, Lord.
It's like, that's good. Actually, you might be our first guest that's cried.
I'm a big crier. You give me anything going about my kids, or you play a little, LV Shane song about my boy or something like that, I'm going to start bawling.
Well, this is good. And John and I might be having a cocktail or two while we're hanging out tonight too, which is good. I think all these podcasts should have cocktails.
We should be able to show people that we're doing it but we're drinking out of plastic cups, so we can't can't hear that.
Right. Well, no, you can hear
this.
This.
Nostalgic back in the day. This is the 2000s. We drink out of solo cups.
Exactly.
Nice.
Well, we have to.
Yeah.
In our undisclosed location.
That's right.
That's what we got to do. So here's a good one that. So John and I have grown up together. So we obviously you said you're fourth generation.
I'm third.
You're third generation.
Yeah.
So I'm third generation.
Okay.
So my grandparents, my mom.
And you grew up over Avon on the Prairie.
I did. Well, we originally lived on Burton Street, right across when actually the tennis courts were a baseball field. And I think we started on Bonnie Bray, like before I was born. My parents were there, and then moved over to Burton Street. But Burton up until I was in 8th grade. But most of the stuff stories that you and I have are like a lot of good grade school stuff.
Yeah.
So if
Dave, I'm going to tell you all this right now.
Oh no.
Dave went to St. Gilbert's.
Yeah.
But he was the best basketball white boy I've ever seen. And he had one of the first pairs of Air Jordans, and he wore parachute pants while he was playing basketball and trying to do Thriller stuff I
couldn't roller skate backwards though.
I think we were in awe with you. And St. Gilbert's always, the Catholics always had better athletes than all us public school kids. And you came over there, dribbling between your legs, and I'm over there like this. My mom sewed my hair, cut my hair with a bowl around my head and stuff, and we were terrible. And we had these stupid outfits.
We beat the crap out of the middle school.
It was terrible.
But it was like me and Cooney.
Yeah.
And Todd Basic.
Yeah.
And
I'm playing
Mark Sasser.
Yep. And me, Eric, John Brenner, and then a bunch of other kids that were Army brats that came in. I think I had Michael Lyons on there. I don't remember what.
See, now these days, I don't think people know. There was it was fun because we were all friends. We're a lot smaller town at that time. St. Gilbert, again, when St. Gilbert would play Grayslake Middle School in basketball.
That was an expedition game because we just didn't want to get killed that bad.
We didn't even have a fucking gym.
Yeah.
We played at the parish hall. We practiced at the parish hall, and I don't think we had home games. The home games were at Woodland or something. Because we didn't even have a gym.
Dude, I was a terrible basketball player.
Well, I will agree with you on one thing.
Football was my thing, and that was it. But basketball, I just couldn't do. And John Brenner and I feel so bad, dude.
John Brenner, I love it.
My grade school teacher, he was a 6th grade, and he became the 7th grade and 8th grade basketball. No, I don't remember when Pavatka was doing it or whatever, but Grant Seaholm.
Grant Seaholm, yes.
He was the 6th grade teacher, and then our 7th grade, basketball guy. And, we had better basketball teams because we had Tim West.
Well, that was a grade above you.
Phenomenal, whatever. But I was terrible. And John Brenner and I were at Gavin School and we were playing, and we ended up stealing the ball. And I'm on one side of the lane, and he's on the other, and we're trying to make these layups. And I'm missing. He catches on one side, and he misses, and I catch it. And coach is yelling at us, and it's and then finally somebody came and grabbed the ball from us, and you're shooting on our own goal. And I'm like, oh my God, my dad was so embarrassed. And he's like, oh, this is terrible. I'm like, I'm never coming to watch another game again. You're an embarrassment. And I'm like, well, at least I didn't make it. I didn't score a point
You
from
could
him.
say that you didn't make it.
So 8th grade, and then we went out.
Oh, my
and it was
God.
just the worst thing ever.
That's funny that you remember that. Hey, my mom was so nice that I got one of the first pair of those. People are collecting Jordans now.
Yeah.
I had the original pair of Jordans. I was one of the first.
I know,
ones.
and
they were $99 in what 86.
Yeah, this was
which
19.
Would be
no, it was even before that because you had them in 7th grade, I think. So it was 1986. It was the summer that we went into high school.
You're right.
So it was 1985.
Yeah.
And so maybe it was our end of our.
How much would those shoes been today?
I don't know, but the only bad part is
thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah,
I love you guys.
You should have bought just knowing that you would have been older. You should have bought a size 11.
Right.
Because now you're the size of 7 or something like that, and you were like, oh, that's great. Now I heard you bought 2 pair. Didn't your parents buy you another pair?
That might be a legend.
You had one to wear, and then you had one to save.
No, I think I got the second pair, because I had them all through. But
But he had the cool ones. They were white, black, and red.
The white, black, and reds. My dad still had them, and he wrapped them up and gave them to me for Christmas, like 2 years ago, in a gift box, and they had like holes in them because I wore them. But he like saved them.
Well, you should. I would send a letter to that to like Nike or Jordan and be like, dude, like I still got them.
I got the original, like whatever, but I don't fit in the parachute pants anymore though.
Yeah.
But I wasn't playing basketball in parachute pants.
I don't know, but that's my story, and I like
That's your story. I
like remembering you like that. I tried to do like, I was over there just with my shoes from Venture that I was wearing and stuff like that, and I couldn't afford anything else.
Hey, that's all I did was play. That's all. It's so funny now if you think about like what we did. Like we played basketball and baseball. Like we didn't have video games. We didn't do anything. We were outside practicing basketball every single day. We had
Atari, and I played that stupid like jumper game with the motorcycle with the one.
I was playing Pong on something else. I think we could
Cubert or something like that.
So you and I were texting back and forth. We were talking about places in Grayslake because Jen and I were like, okay, if you think about how Grayslake is now, like it was the Manor.
Yep.
And then there's Clingerville.
Well, it was Clingerville or Tinkerville? It's Clingerville.
Clingerville, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
Clingerville, and then basically like the area I lived in all the way from from.
Does everybody
83.
know what Clingerville is? Have you
we talked about Clingerville with Nano and why it was called Clingerville because my mom.
It used to be a junkyard.
I did not know that.
It was a junkyard back in the day, and they built all of Grayslake.
Clingerville is next to the high school on the in between.
It's
the
Hillside, 1st, 2nd Street, and Prairie View.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Tell me.
But if you look at the downtown area, because where my office is built at, this is all floodplain. Mm-hmm. And so behind me is all peat bog. And so the tracks, if you realize that when you go up over the tracks, the whole downtown was built up. And so Clingerville used to be like an old junkyard.
Did not know that.
Like when we would build, so we lived off of Prairie View, across the street from Wendy and Vanessa Hart, and Sean Lee was in there, and the Byers and Wentz, and all these different people that were in our neighborhood. Babudas, Mike Duchesne, you knew Mike, and then Archie Anderson, all those guys. But what happened is that every time you dug a hole in the ground or whatever, you would see like cinder blocks, ashes, wire, all this stuff. It was just built up of just crap. There was never there was some topsoil that was put down on top of it, but it was always like you found glass. It was just weird. And so it's old, built up. That's what I was told that's why they call it Clinkerville. Or Clinkerville or Clingerville. I think it was Clinkerville.
Okay, so
but
maybe
that's when so where the high school parking lot is now, that used to be Russell Brothers gas station.
Correct. Which were some of my parents' best friends, like right there because the school got extended that way.
So Mike Duchesne lost his house there. The school bought it, and then there was a couple other houses. My aunt's house, the Willis house, was the next door to Mike's, and so I was.
And that's where they extended the parking lot, behind the baseball field was there.
Yeah. So people, and then the house there, it was Glenn. I can't remember that guy's name. There's a couple of houses that were then all along that whole street behind. That's where the tennis courts used to be in the front.
Yeah, because the tennis courts were on the opposite side.
Yeah.
And where the tennis courts now were, that was the varsity baseball field.
But everybody listening, we're going to tell you some stuff, but
we're going to tell you.
This town there's a reason why, a lot of us, we grew up in this town, but why did we stick around when other people want to get away from other towns? But why do we all stick around here? Me, you, Gunther, everybody else that wanted to stick around. Duchesne was here for a long time. People stuck around, and even people from Libertyville come here. It's just a great community. It was always like a blue collar community, and we had people that were a little bit more affluent than others, and we had people that were less fortunate, whatever. But it was just a small, good, tight community. People looked out for everybody. You never locked your doors.
Didn't lock the doors. People didn't care where their kids went.
We ran around all over the place. This is the problem with America today, is that because of stupid internet, but kids aren't just out, hey mom, I'll be back by time dinner.
Oh, we did
calls.
shit that if our parents knew half of the stuff that we did.
Yeah. Well, we told them when we were 23.
Right, exactly.
When it was finally out of the fire.
When we actually had to explain to our parents where Tree Island was.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody's listening now that doesn't know, well, I'm sure most of the people, unless they're like lifers like us, where it's West Trail and Harrion Farms, was all
dirt bike trails,
and then we go back to there's a
plateau,
place, the plateau,
Tree Island,
exactly,
and behind Woodview School is called Treasure Island or Black Mountain or whatever.
Right, and that's where you went to either smoke cigarettes, make out, drink beers, run from the cops,
four-wheeling, ride motorcycles.
And there were actual motorcycle trails where all those things were.
Oh yeah, and you could ride all over through Haynesville. You would ride through Round Lake, through the power lines. I was just talking with my buddy Mark Davis and Sean Kirby this weekend about riding everywhere, and it was amazing to grow up out here and the stuff that you could do, and you know, I was sitting there like, you know, so I first got my first motorcycle in like 5th grade. My older brother, I have an older brother that's 11 years older from me. He's a half brother, but that guy was like the Fonz, and he could ride a motorcycle. He could ride a motorcycle like nobody's business. I mean, like riding wheelies all over the place and taking us. I remember as a little kid, like, take me for a ride. And like 3 years old, I'm like hanging on the steering, you know, the handlebars and the tanks vibrate, and I'm like, I gotta pee so bad, you know. And he's riding me around all over the place, and then I got my first motorcycle, and then we go out riding, and I was a terrible motorcycle. I'm terrible on 2 wheels, like, because I'm a front tire watcher. I didn't realize that early, but I've wiped out so many times it's ridiculous. But just the stupid stuff that would happen, like think about every one of your kids now that is 7th grade or 6th grade. Here I am out riding a 125 Kawasaki motorcycle with my younger brother that rode with me from our house out there on Tree Island. We're riding around. He's riding my bike. I'm riding it.
Completely unsupervised.
Completely unsupervised. I have a helmet. My brother doesn't have a helmet. We're sharing the helmet. And this is just a garage sale bike that we found, but we're riding it. My brother got it running for me. We're out there riding around and stuff. And all of a sudden, I stop and I'm talking to him, and all I hear is like chains and chain coin in somebody's like pockets and stuff running, and I look back and it's 2 cops running because they can't drive back there, but they're running because somebody owns this piece of property and we're riding back there, but they're running through the woods coming at us, and I'm like, get on the bike. And I'm like, what kid nowadays
we're running from the police?
Yeah, what kid nowadays would know to like, I'm like, I tell my brother, like, get on the bike. I'm trying to start this thing. And the thing won't start. And I had enough sense to sit there and I'm like on my tiptoes and I'm pushing with him on the bike, and I get it down the hill just as they're coming up on us, and I let it down the hill and I pop the clutch and start it and I take off. And then to run through, get back to my neighborhood, and it was a farmer's field there, and to lay the bike down, and because they know where I'm heading, and I lay the bike down before I get to the road, and we're in the field in the weeds, and they go around, and I knew it, and like, stay down, they're coming again, and they go again a couple of times. They knew who we were, but they had to catch us.
Right.
But they never caught us.
I wonder how many police we had then.
Like, oh man, huh?
How many policemen do we have then?
I don't know.
You probably had all 2.
Brian had more issues than I did with him.
I'm sure of it.
Some of the police officers were able to do different things to you back in the day that your parents wouldn't have objected to, you know.
Yes.
But and it wasn't their fault. It's just the way that things worked, and you know, we anticipated it. But you know, we never got caught with stuff like that. But it was, you know, we were kids, and we were like 10, 12 years old. That's the only problems that like Brian really ended up getting in trouble with was with the go-kart, and guy wanted to put him in handcuffs, and because we were riding a go-kart around the street, you know, and it's just like, don't you have something better to do? Like, they didn't even have a full-time fire department. It was all part-timers.
That's right.
You know, our neighbors would have the sirens on the front of their trucks and driving around and stuff. And remember doing the power slides over that Emil's,
Yes.
where they got their garden as that building blew up? And so they had that old parquet floor in there. It'd get wet when we do the power slides with our bikes and crap.
Yes. Oh,
remember the 5 and dime?
Of course.
I got in trouble for stealing candy out of there.
Okay, so I'm going to make a confession that I tried to steal the Millennium Falcon from the 5 and dime.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I think I got in trouble. And
my mom, oh my God, my mom was so pissed.
I stole the biggest thing there.
And I remember the officer having to drive me to the house. I forget if I knew his name, but he was like the youth agent or something that was here. But instead of like arresting you or whatever, like he would bring you like to your house or call your parents in, and they would have to talk about everything. And I had to, even though I got caught, they made me work back and had to pay what it was worth.
Yeah.
To like teach me the lesson.
Well, I only stole like 5-cent candy, dude.
Oh, I went for the big stuff. I mean, had to dream big. And the problem is, if I asked for the Millennium Falcon, they probably would have bought it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you wanted to do it on your own. You're an entrepreneur.
You got to dream big, baby. Got to do whatever you can. So we've talked about theft. We talked about running from the police.
Yeah. And I always want to say one more thing. I don't know if you knew this or not, but like my parents, I got one. So we never had like name brand clothes or really anything like that. Because like I said, we went to Zare, Kmart, Venture, whatever, until I even went away. Like 8th grade year, my mom took me to Gap and I got 2 pairs of jeans and 2 shirts. That was it. But I didn't know any different until other people that had different stuff. But I tell people all the time, like, when I was growing up, we only had Chuck Taylors. And they weren't even white. They were off-white. And we bought them from Rudolph's department store. And I tell them, I'm like, all there was a line across the thing, and it was like somebody, like when people throw their shoes over the top of like over the top of the power lines. Yeah. It was like that, and you're like, here's 10s, here's this, and here's 8, 7, 6, and you had to wear those, and you had to go there to buy your frickin' pants.
Yes.
And the pants were like frickin' cardboard and scratching. Your mom always wanted you to go, clothes shopping in August. And you're like, I don't want to wear those cardboard scratchy pants. Like, not today. It's like 100 degrees in here. Did you ever do that?
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's why I laugh at
people don't even understand that. Like, there was nothing. I wish I would have been the first cool kid that could ever draw on my shoes. It would have looked like a Diary of a Wimpy Kid on there, but it would have been. It would have been the first designer shoe.
It would have been the first designer shoe.
Can you imagine somebody just doing that?
And if we're lucky, your parents...
Or tie-dye them.
Right. And all we had was those.
Yeah.
But if you were really lucky, then we got to go to Lakehurst Mall. And then you can go to merry-go-round and...
Oh, my God. I got a story about that.
Of course you do. Train horns.
Yeah. My dad was in the military, in the Navy and stuff like that. And... he goes, you know what, I want to get one of these guys. Like, somebody took me in, during that time when I was in Vietnam and stuff. He got drafted. But he goes, I wish somebody would have done that for me. And so he goes, so we went to Lakehurst, and he goes, hey, man, you going anywhere for Thanksgiving or Christmas or something like that?
Because all the sailors
I think it was Christmas, yeah. Right. And they're like, no, we're not. And so we ended up getting these 3 guys or 4 guys that came to our house for a meal, and they were very appreciative. My dad picked them up and brought them back. And then we also had these foreign exchange students that were like from Japan and Denmark or something like that. These 2 girls, and I'm like, okay, why do these guys are over here? Well, my mom felt bad that they didn't have a gift to open up, and my mom was Miss Avon. She sold Avon and stuff like that. I'm like, okay. So I don't know how old I was, but we were in Grayslake at the time. My parents moved out in 1991 out to Lake Villa, but I was a little kid, and I'm sitting there going like, so she gave them a gift, and they all look at it, and they start chuckling, and my mom and my dad goes, oh my God, Dorothy, like, why would you do that? She gave them soap on a rope. And so
that's what she gave them for their Christmas
and so my dad goes, why would you give them soap on the rope? And so they're all checking, I'm like, why? I'm like, it's still soap. You're going to need soap. I don't know.
And you know what? It might have been the coolest thing for them. Like, they probably are telling the story that I got soap on a rope.
Yeah, from this little old Midwestern housewife over there. But.
That is freaking hilarious.
But
wow, so you guys took in foreign exchange students, and your dad would get the...
Yeah. We had and then in high school we ended up having a foreign exchange student from Mexico, and because his host family couldn't take him, and this was my senior year. Mm-hmm. And so then he came in as Luis Francisco Rodriguez Munguia. He was a cool kid, but his first day he wanted to come in. His parents had money in Mexico. His dad was like a hospital administrator or something like that. And so he was well off. He had people, like, they had house servants and stuff like that. So here we are, this blue collar family, and I'm like, we got to clean up our dishes after dinner and stuff like that. So we're cleaning them off, and we have this dog collie named Champ, and so we're putting, scraping the dishes off and putting them in the dishwasher. And I'm like, you got to help, let's go. And so he doesn't speak English that well, and he goes, so the dog's sitting there licking the plates, like this, and I turn it for the dog, and the dog keeps licking. I turn it again, and licks it clean. And I take all the dishes that he licked, and then basically I put them back up on the shelves. He goes, "Hey man, what are you doing?" I'm like, "That's our dishwasher." And he's like, "Oh no!" And so he's like, "Relax, I'm just joking." And he's like, "Where am I at right now?" But he would still call me even after I was in chiropractic college and out and stuff. Where he was at, he was in the military after he got out of high school and stuff, and he would call me from places, but it ended up being 3:00 in the morning. I'm like, "Dude, I gotta work in the morning." I'm like, "I can't talk to you anymore."
Right.
And we lost touch somewhere around 90, 98, somewhere in there.
But you stayed in touch for that long.
Yeah, for 8
years.
years.
Great.
So it was good.
Wow.
All right. You want to direct this thing? Or
Yeah. So no. We're running John Bouma style. This one's going to be long, folks. So just sit back and relax. And if you're walking through this like now,
you know what? Let's do a little intermission, and everybody can go get another drink.
Right. Okay.
This is a fireside chat.
So this is the fireside chat. So hold on to your lug nuts here. So John, he's going to answer this own question himself. But this part, folks, is brought to you by our friends at Barbecue Productions in Third Lake, my friend Chris Schoenberger. So the Grayslake hot seat questions. These are rapid fire questions for you.
Oh,
brother.
Great.
So we're going to answer these as fast as we can. I'm sure that you won't have a story for any of these.
Okay.
I guarantee that. And then me and you might take an intermission to refill.
Okay.
So we're going to do this really quick. So thank you to Barbecue Productions for sponsoring this part of the show, and thank you to all of our sponsors.
Who knows these questions? Is this about me or what is?
No, you just sit back and relax.
Is this
brother.
the first thing that comes to my mind?
Yep, first thing comes to your mind. Well, they're pretty specific.
Okay,
You
so
just don't
somebody
worry.
knows something about me.
Hey, we don't need a
All
tutorial on this.
Okay.
Just relax. I do not have parachute pants on right now. Number one, if you had to have a superpower, what would it be?
Superpower, what would it be? Oh my God, superhuman strength.
Strength. Okay. A place you'd like to travel that you've never been.
Europe.
All right. Your favorite TV show growing up.
Favorite TV show growing up? Fall Guy.
Nice. The funniest person that you know.
It wasn't because of the $6 Million Man. It was because of Heather Locklear.
It was, of course. We all know that. I see the feathered hair right now. Funniest person you know.
Eric Gunther.
Your first car.
It was a 1977 red Cutlass Supreme that my brother crashed within his first month of driving. It was cherry. It was a grandmother's car. My dad got it. It's amazing.
Do you have a hidden talent?
I've got a very loud, surprising laugh.
Yeah, no one knows about that right now. If you had to have a podcast, what would the subject matter be?
Just basically off the cuff, like we're doing right now.
Awesome. If you had to have a job in another field besides chiropractic, what would it be?
Construction.
Would the 12-year-old version of yourself think you're cool?
I didn't try to talk to any adults when I was 12 years old, so probably not.
Okay. Do you have a nickname?
Now, no.
Okay.
Just Bouma. That's it.
Just Bouma. Before? You say now.
Yeah.
Did
Back
you
in
have one
high
before?
school, it was like Meathead or something like that.
I think I've heard you call that. What do you wish you learned sooner?
How to have a voice and speak up for myself or just other people. I'd probably be a little bit more quieter, and I would, have to do, I would be more forceful on stuff, but then just to speak up first.
Right, and this is good. That's really good advice. If you're an animal, what would you choose to be?
A bear.
What's the street you grew up on?
Prairie View.
Prairie View?
Yep.
And what was your, I did this backwards for you, by the way. And what was your first childhood pet's name?
Well, we had other ones, but the only one that
Basically,
really
this is your porn star name.
Champ.
So, Champ Prairie Hood?
Prairie View.
Champ Prairie View. So please refer to Dr. John as Champ Prairie View from now on.
I'd just rather go by John Bouma, not Dr. John Bouma.
Okay, well.
I'm humble.
All right, fine.
Whatever.
Have you ever ate a roller dog from a gas station or a roller food?
I've never had a roller dog.
What's your middle name?
Nolan.
If you had to have a theme party at your house, what would it be?
Well, my favorite theme party that I want to do
Yes.
is a disc, like a 1970s disco rollerball party. Like roller skating, back over at like Round Lake Roller Rink. I want to do this when we're in our 40s, but can't have Premier Chiropractic sponsor it because people get fractured hips.
Sure. One, we can't do that.
Yeah, we can't do that.
From 1 to 10, how good of a driver are you?
I'm probably about, I'd have to say.
From 1 to asshole.
6. I'm probably like a 6 to 7. I mean, like if I have to get hairy, I can get hairy, but my wife is I've crashed basically every one of our cars, so.
Nice. So that's a 1.
No, I'm going to say a 6.
Okay.
I'm more than average.
Scale. Well,
but they're not big dollar
From 1
items.
to 10, how good of a chiropractor
she's
are
a 10. From 1 to 10, I'm going to be humble. I'm going to say I'm going to be a 9.5.
Okay, good. We talked about this a little bit, but sports you played in high school?
Football, track, wrestling.
Okay, and you played football in college as well. From 1 to 10, 10 being the most likeliest, what do you think the chance that Bigfoot exists?
1 to 10. 10 is the most likeliest?
Yeah.
I would say 0.001.
You're the first person. You're a total jackass. What's your favorite Grayslake event that we hold here?
Well, I think they're all changing. I like that band thing that they just did, the Battle of the Bands. Cool. I like the Bourbon Fest that Mike Pruitt had out there. Yeah. I do like Grayslake Days. I don't really have one, but I just like when the town comes out
and supports,
and celebrates it.
If me and you are going to go have a drink and watch a football game, where would we go?
If we're going to have a drink and watch a football game, we're probably going to go to Emil's.
All right. What is your favorite podcast of mine that you've listened to?
I've never listened to any of them.
You're such a dick.
I just heard about this last week.
Where am I not? Because John's not on the interwebs, really.
No, I am not. I am. I don't look at much.
You're not a Facebook, so he's not going to share this on social media anywhere. So if you're finding this and you're listening, that's probably.
I've told a lot of patients about it, and I said, hey, you might want to listen to this.
See, that's probably best.
Yeah, more word of mouth is best for me.
It is. So when you eat tacos, do you tilt your head to the left or to the right?
I tilt my head to the left.
And he did the motion to the left all the time.
Do you want me to know where I buy my tacos from?
Yeah, where do you buy your tacos?
Dulce Margaritas.
All right.
Off of 45 and 128. Used to be Acapulco.
Nice. If you had to bring somebody from out of town, like the buddy you're talking about, like somebody that's never been to Grayslake, is a famous person or whoever, and you had to bring them to Grayslake, where's the first place you'd take them, besides like your house or whatever, like in town? Where would you take them?
I would take them to my garage first.
Right.
And then I'd probably take them to the Vine.
Awesome. Your favorite childhood book?
I didn't read much of it.
That's right.
Looked at pictures, Dave.
Right. Picture books.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right. So this is one of my other favorite ones on here. What business does Grayslake need that we don't have?
What business is great? Well, we don't need another bar. We could use some better restaurants. Not better, but another restaurant, just different things. And what do we need? We need something. Grayslake's kind of weird with the downtown area. We don't have a lot of real estate for something to do.
It's very true.
So
it seems like we're packed with realtors and hair salons and
I think
and bars.
Yeah, I think, and we got some great places that are only seasonal stuff that's out here. I think something that it sounds dumb, but I know it would. In Grayslake, we need more revenue that comes in and stuff that people can be outside doing stuff with. I think if somebody end up bringing like a small miniature golf thing here in downtown area, because we've got some of those buildings over there off of whatchamacallit, was Slessor or whatever, that street where those buildings are at. They can take those down. You know, you could put something there like that.
Some kind of like entertainment kind of thing.
Yeah, an entertainment venue, outside
for the kids
areas.
to do, or
yeah,
adults
things
to do.
for kids to do. You know, we had the Oasis, but that was kind of a closed-in thing. You didn't know what was going on there. More of an outside music venue. I like live music. And the more that we could get of that in downtown and people being outside and sharing it together, I think that would be a huge thing.
If you can't tell, John's all about community, which is cool. We're going to stop these, but I have a couple ones here before we pour our next cocktail. So thank you to Barbecue Productions for hosting the Grayslake Hot Seat. You didn't. If I had the other ones, some of my other ones, I had to switch them because I'm like, tell me about the second time you've been arrested.
Okay. I've never been arrested.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so this is the lying portion of it. Right, because you ran too fast and you don't hide in the weeds. And that's why. Hey, have you ever seen the, this is the last question, and, well, if you're listening, this won't be the last question. Have you ever seen the chiropractic cracking videos with all the girls in the yoga pants and they do all
Not the yoga pants, but I watched the two chiropractors that are out there and they had the stupid dad jokes. Like, really? Again, I'm not on social
haven't
media.
Seen the...
No, I'm not on social media, and I don't watch YouTube. I don't watch any of that.
So I'm going to.
The only thing I watch on YouTube is funny scare videos because I love scaring people,
right?
And funny fail videos and stuff. So those are the only two things I watch. I look at Pinterest, I look at Realtor.com, and that's it. That's the only thing I do online. I watch Google News. That's it.
Well, and I think the reason...
I don't even watch TV.
Okay, so I think the reason you do
Netflix and Prime, that's it.
Okay, so with the job you do, you don't need social media because how many patients do you see a day?
We're between, 60 to 100. Depends on the day.
So 60 to 100, you don't need to scroll through Facebook. You get it live and in person.
Yeah, and,
You know everything that's going on everywhere.
I do know quite a bit. Yeah, probably more than I should sometimes.
I'm sure. I've walked in and we've had some great conversations. I'm like, oh, shit, I just told John that. But
it stays there.
It's funny because you're in your little. Do you have doctor-patient confidentiality?
Absolutely.
Do you really?
Oh yeah.
Really? So tell me something crazy somebody told you this week.
No.
But it's kind of fun because it's a fun thing because for some reason when you're in that room, I think people get uncomfortable and you're used to seeing people.
I think
and people like to tell you things.
I just talk and I talk about stuff and sometimes people are like, oh my God, we covered so much stuff in there in that 5 minutes that I was in that room. Like I'm all over the place. So,
really?
Yeah. And I can tell a story, but it's so people are just sitting there trying to follow a story and then I crack them and they're like, oh, I didn't even know you were going to do that. And I'm like, well, there you go.
It's a distraction too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because some people are probably nervous when they get in there too, right?
Oh, for sure. And that was the cool part about. Oh, and that's another place I would take them to, Charlie's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I tell everybody.
That's the late night thing. That's always fun, but
Charlie's isn't so bad. And then you got to go to Fred's in the morning.
Fred's is my place. I do that almost. I go to Fred's probably 4 days a week.
Do you really?
Yeah.
What time do you go in? Because
I don't go in. The girls, we call it in. The girls go pick it up.
Oh, so
and
you
it's sitting
carry
there
it.
waiting. Yeah, and so it's ready to go. Joyce is another one of those people that her and I work well together.
How fun would it be to have Joyce on the podcast?
Oh my God, this is the Ed DeBevics of Grayslake. It's it was really fun back in the day. She'll say the most crassest things, and people are like, somebody did say this funny thing, they read a post about Fred's Diner, and they're like, I think it was Patty that was taking care of him, Joyce's sister, but so the kid was sitting there doing something, and he was going to pick a piece of food that was out, and this lady has never been there before. She brought her little kid in there, and she goes, that's not yours, you little shit. This is yours over here. And so she goes, I was so appalled. And I'm like, that's freaking Fred's for
I think
you.
I just had this conversation either on a podcast with somebody else and somebody wrote a review that said how offended they were.
Yeah, and I'm
like, did you know where you were going?
Yeah, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, that's the beauty of that place. And they're going to tell it how it is. And they are the most beautiful people you've ever met. And, good I mean, it's good food. It's just a greasy spoon. I said, but they're not going to overcharge you, and it's cash only. There's no check. There's no credit card, and it's the best American business you can have.
It is. Do you remember riding to Fred's? Because I always tell the story that
I never went to Fred's when I was a kid.
Oh man,
I didn't even know Fred. I only even known Joyce.
I knew Fred. And me and Gary Hook, who lives across the street, we used to save our $5 or whatever, and we'd drive up there for the hamburger special. I can't believe you didn't do that.
No, I've never been to Fred's when I was a kid. I started going there like after I got out of chiropractic college and came back.
That's crazy.
So, well, I don't even remember when that was open, but I mean,
it's been open for a really long time.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking 70, whatever.
Yeah, I don't even remember that.
I'll be interested to find out how long Fred's has been open.
I always went to like the Village Inn or the frickin' Last Chance or Village Inn, the Roach Inn or something like that. What we used to call it.
That's right.
It used to be the old bank that was all like.
Yeah.
Hey, Grayslake, we have reached the end of episode 1 of Dr. John Bouma. There's a lot more to cover, and we're going to air the rest of this on Thursday. He's got some fascinating stories about some patients he's helped, some people in Grayslake that he has helped go on to do great things, and some more nonsense as well. So, hey, wherever you're listening, make sure to subscribe on your favorite listening platform so you will be notified every time there's a new episode out. So I usually say see you next Tuesday, but we're going to see you on Thursday. So thank you for listening, and once again, we'll see you Thursday.